This podcast is brought to you by Penji. Penji is a creative subscription service that gives you access to pre-vetted, agency-trained creatives from all over the world. From graphic design to illustrations to social media management and web development, it's all included for one monthly price. It's time to say goodbye to the hassle of searching for top-notch creative talent. With Penji, you get quality and consistency delivered right to your inbox every day, carefully crafted for you by humans. So meet your new creative team today. Head over to penji.co for more and enter the coupon code located within the podcast show notes.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fully Managed Podcast, the podcast where we discuss marketing and business tips to help assist you on your business journey. I am your host, Shannon, Penji's partnership coordinator, and I am joined here today with a very special guest, Kiara Serret from Boston College. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Of course. Thank you for having me on the podcast.
I appreciate it. So could you start by telling us a little bit about yourself, maybe introducing yourself a little differently than I would, and just tell us about your professional journey. It might be a short one, or it might be a long one, but anything that has led you up to where you are today, and then tell us a little bit about where you are today.
Absolutely. Thank you again for having me on the podcast today. I'm Kiara Serret. I am currently the Director of Marketing and Communications at Boston College's Lynch School of Education and Human Development. It's a mouthful, I know. So quickly, just talk about where I'm situated in Boston College. There's different graduate schools. Once you're obviously in the big umbrella of Boston College, and the Lynch School is the School of Ed and Human Development. We'd do education, counseling, educational measurement, all that fun stuff kind of under this umbrella. So I'm in charge of the marketing efforts there. But more about me, not really about my school. I have a weird career trajectory. I like to say very unique, because when I graduated from undergrad with a degree in international business, management and marketing, I was like, I don't know what I want to do. So I want to learn the most and then figure it out along the way. I started in a tech startup in one of those positions that rotated every 4 months. So you could learn the in and out of the business. It actually was an online proctoring tool with since the pandemic, we know online education looked like. So proctoring was when people would stare at you via the webcam to when you took a test to make sure you weren't. So I learned a lot about HR, marketing, operations, and account management in that rotational program that was at Examity. And eventually got promoted to be an account manager. I managed relationships with a different handful of clients, colleges and universities. They were using the platform, and I was working with them to make sure that the product worked. Again, more of an account manager role, not too much in the marketing side, but still learning the ins and outs of an organization, especially a startup. There was so much opportunity for me to learn from my peers about in sales. So it's cool for me to be oh, okay, cool. I can see how you offer them this product, and now I'm coaching them through it and training them until they can use it. So that was cool. And then after almost a year there, I transitioned and went to work for Senior Living Residences. They still are, a healthcare assisted living company. And I was doing marketing and technology there. So that job also learned a lot. I was there for 4 years. Half of my job was working on a lot of the digital marketing. So photo shoots, video shoots, all the events that were happening and organizing those, mostly as a project manager on that side. And then on the other arm was overseeing our technology partnership with an external company, and then training our in-house employees how to use it. So very basic work, kind of Google Drive and all of that. It was new, right? And healthcare technology isn't really the thing that you're looking for and hoping to use. So it was very cool because I had a wide range of projects to work on. Every day was different. And that's when I really started to love marketing. And as I was working there and really just being involved in the projects, when you're working on an event, you're kind of seeing all aspects of marketing, from the invite, email, campaigns, social media monitoring, getting the invites out, via social, all of that world, I started to like dabble in it. And I was like, I kind of want to be in marketing more. But I wasn't sure how to do that. And alongside all of that, I really wanted to go back to school. And when I started exploring new opportunities for myself, I found myself with an opportunity here at Boston College, an entry-level marketing role, and eventually throughout my career here, now promoted to the director of marketing. But I've worked up the ranks, started as a content development specialist, really just learning the ropes. We did a web refresh, which is huge, obviously, in any marketing organization. Learning digital advertising, so all the paid social efforts that we do, and Google, from social media, email campaigns, graduate admissions, recruiting. So in my world, I was always used to like just sales, and this is like sales, but tucked away in a different name. So helping their office be successful. And yeah, now I'm here. I'm really enjoying it, and I feel like every day I'm still learning. So exciting.
Well, that's ideal, at least for me personally. I really like being able to learn in a position. I feel like when I am bored and content without learning anything, I get kind of burnout, I guess. So it's really nice for things to continue to be interesting. And it's also really cool. It's some journey. I mean, like, you've had a lot of experience in a lot of different things, and I am a little different, all the marketing related like subset, but all different perspectives. And I think that's really helpful in contributing to where you are today, because having all of those different backgrounds, I think, are really helpful to utilize. Like, you have, you know, especially if you're working with other individuals that are in different positions, you kind of have a more understanding of what they do and where they're coming from and like how they do it. And I'm sure that's really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I really love that. And like, one of my favorite things about marketing is talking to people that have non-linear ways of getting to marketing. It's more and yeah, I think that there's so many things that you can experience that can contribute to you being successful in a marketing role. So that definitely shows.
Thank you.
Of course. So with having such not only kind of marketing a college, but also a very specific subset of the college, how do you differentiate it from the kind of like crowded higher education landscape? Because that must be very difficult. I mean, there's so many schools out there. How do you kind of differentiate yourself, make people want to go there?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a lot of our efforts, and obviously like being in the graduate school is a great opportunity for us, in the sense that Boston College is such in the New England area, across the world, really a elite brand. So we're able to leverage their brand and their image, and all of our effort, obviously. So it helps. I think when it comes to marketing education, and this is something that throughout my entire career, I've kind of made sure of along the way, is I want to make sure that I'm working somewhere where my work matters, right? So working in technology, my first job allowed me to see, the impact with students and using this tool, and how great that was for colleges and universities to implement it along the way. Working in healthcare and assisted living, same thing. Like, you're making an impact to people who live in these communities, and recruiting and helping families along the way. And now being in education, as someone who's so adamant about, like, one, I wanted to continue my own education, and two, knowing the importance, like, I have friends who are teachers, counselors, I attend counseling myself. Like, I know the importance of all this work to be able to help students, one, enter our school and get an excellent education, and then go out there and like provide their services to others in the world. Like, that's huge. But telling that story, it's just even more so special. Like, I spent the last week, I did a few one-on-one meetings with students who are currently in our programs, and having that opportunity to connect with students, and I do it with focus groups, lunch and learns, things like that. But the one-on-one relationships that you build to then be able to take what they say and put it in our materials, whether it's a grad admissions brochure or a social media post, or it's a tell-all story of who they are in an alumni profile, something like that, right? No matter what it is, it's whoever will read it on the other end, it's going to talk to them in that way and have that warm, fuzzy feeling in their heart. Because I'm talking to a teacher who's been in the field for 4 or 5 years, and how hard is it to be a teacher, like in today's generation, and the tips that they share to our students who are currently in here or other alums that are out in the field and the community that they build over time. Like, having that job is really cool. And being able to tell that story is so fun and different. And when it comes to comparing ourselves with the different competition that's out there, like, does it matter when you're having fun telling the story, everyone's doing the same thing. I think the way that I've always approached marketing and what makes it easier for me is doing what I want to do the way I want to do it, right? Being authentic, being yourself, and hearing those stories and telling it the way that they would want people to hear it too, because obviously they don't have the opportunity to go tell everyone. So that's my job, then bring it and shed light on it. I think that answers your question a bit.
It's very lovely to see how passionate you are about it, because I think the best marketers are people that actually care about what they're marketing. And obviously that seems like something that would be obvious, but at the same time, it's many people can be good at the marketing role and the technical side of things, but I think that you can really see the passion when you look at a specific advertisement or something that you're putting out there marketing related. I think that you can really see the passion that someone has when putting something like that out there when you're consuming it. I think that if you are working in a marketing position for a school that you don't think is a good school, then you're probably not going to be done hard. The brochure for that probably isn't going to be really good.
No, and we have a great team of people here, talented designers, copywriters, all like the whole Boston College community. They only help and support me in my office produce these materials. But wow, when they come out, I'm like, this is so cool. And I still show my mom, like, it doesn't matter how old I am. I'm like, so sharing with everyone. And then it's so cool sharing it back with whoever I worked with on that project, right? If I did a testimonial interview, and chatting, they're like, whoa, this is awesome. I'm on the page. I'm like, cover of this. Like, yeah.
Yeah. So how do you utilize that storytelling tool when you do that? So is it very common, like you do one-on-one interviews and you get kind of a perspective, like a voice, and then you kind of translate that to different modes of advertising, or like how does it usually go, or is there multiple ways?
I think it depends on the project. So I'm thinking the most recent, like, bigger project we did was new graduate admissions brochures. And I think you start with your internal team trying to determine, like, what message are we trying to get across, right? Like, what do our prospective students want to hear from us? What's going to set us apart in this space? And, like, what's really going to convince someone to spend money and come get a master's degree here, right? And that's where you start. And then along the way, like, I'm also a big person, like, I foster the community I work in, like, within myself, within my team. I promote it alongside, like, my team will tell you, they're like, yeah, no, she forces us to go to these things. But by the end of it, they realize the importance of building community where you are. So that only makes it all easier too. So when you start on that project and you see, like, okay, this is the message I need to hear. Now I'm going to go meet with two faculty members who know students really well and will be able to identify Shannon, who's going to say X about this program, and Donald, who's going to say Y about another program. And then the fun began. So now I get to go talk to the student and they want to tell their story, and then piecing it together is easy, So taking a step back and really strategizing and figuring out, like, what are we trying to say here? And I know it's really basic, but one of my dear mentors always said to me, like, go through the basics: who, what, when, where, and why. And, like, again, so basic, but it's a great thing to, like, when you're outlining a project, like, all right, well, let's get started here and then kind of figure it out along the way.
No, I think that's incredible. It's also, I truly believe in the community-based thing, especially, it makes sense, especially because you need to hear from all these voices in order to create this story. And in order to know where it's coming from is really helpful in like showcasing that narrative, I'm sure. It's almost like a reporter perspective almost. Of the idea that if you have no one to ask or you have no connections with people, then how are you going to, are you just gonna create quotes yourself? That big stuff of like
you can tell when they're not real, like you got everyone. Some people might buy it, but you can feel it when it's real and the warm and fuzzies when you're reading or interacting with the piece or seeing an ad, whatever it is. So why not make it real if they're right here? Like, yeah.
and if you have those connections, you're able to get to those people easier. Whereas like seeking them out would probably be a difficult feat, I would think, if you don't have those connections already.
Correct. Yeah, I agree.
So are there any, I guess, so I have a bunch of curiosities about niches that I don't usually get to talk about. So excuse me if I ask those. But okay, has there been any emerging trends in specifically educational marketing? Like, have you ever done something that you saw and you're like, oh, that's really cool. I would really like to showcase that as well. And I think that would be an effective marketing strategy or campaign.
Yeah, I feel like education is such a space, and I'll say education and human development. So when I say human development, I'm talking more like counseling, right? So, we have the advantage that technology is like obviously ever evolving, right? But in these different distinct disciplines, like they're just being eaten up, and like it's so exciting to share all of the technological advances that are happening in these spaces. So I feel like when I get to work on a fun, exciting project like that, it's following the trend. So for example, I think of, hold on, I'm gonna take a step back to answer this one a little slower. Hold on. When I think of a project that we worked on in response for a trend that's happening in the world, right? I think of last semester. All right, can I start over on my answer?
Yeah, you're totally okay. Don't even worry.
All right. So when I think about our approach to how we deal with trends in the education space and in the human development space, like counseling, psychology, all of that world, there's always trends in this space. There's always things that are changing. I think when we came out of the pandemic, our dean worked on this podcast called Pulled Up Short, and he was interviewing folks. And imagine you're on this is the stage he set, and it was fun promoting this podcast. So imagine you're on a horse and you get pulled up short, and someone's like, "Hey, can you give me directions?" So whatever, and then you end up having a conversation with that person. It was that mindset that he had on that podcast, and right after the pandemic, obviously, like education was like, children, are they going to be okay taking online classes, all of that. And technology was really infused in education. And from there, and I think still till today, technology continues to be a trend that we see, especially with the advances in AI, how we're integrating it into classrooms. So one of the projects that I really liked working on with that podcast, because he was interviewing folks, faculty, community members for the Lynch School, who would share their expertise on, the impact that technology has on children, right? Because our faculty are experts in these areas. They do research, dedicated research for child development. So like that's on the development side. And then you have like educational experts who are talking on teacher education and then combining the two together to then talk about that. And then it was my job to communicate it out in the field. Like, well, when we talk about, how children are going to learn and grow from taking online classes after the COVID pandemic, right? Here are two experts that share their expertise in this area for you to hear as a parent or as another teacher, and how you can like change in your class. So, or continue and innovate in this space as a teacher or learn from this, et cetera, et cetera. So that's one example. I think the other fun example that I really like is responding to things that are happening in the world. So higher education is always a trending topic. Last semester, we did a series of posts on like how to talk to your classrooms, whether it's college settings or K through 12 setting about like the political election and like how to have space for mindfulness, and like giving tips from our faculty who would help teachers like just have a reflective space where everyone can like talk and just not feel as tense as it is like external from the community. So my favorite pieces are working on those trendier ones. And like, you know, you got to make sure the audience finds those marketing pieces right, like in the right mindset and take it well. But we play it safe and make sure that everyone enjoys what they're going to read and they actually learn something from it, you know?
I really like that. I also like that you resonate with like specific campaigns that you work on, or I'm sure you resonate with all of them. But it's nice to have to see you being passionate about something that's trendy, so to speak, but it's also not trendy for the purpose of being trendy, more like it is helpful for the community. That's definitely something that's topical and trending, as so to speak, of like it's on the news and you're hearing about it, but I think it's a very smart way to create a marketing campaign surrounding that that's equally as helpful for your clients, which would just be the students, or their students' parents, and everyone involved in that specifically, because it's educational, which showcases the educational system while also just teaching people things in the process that is free.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of our work is like free resources, right? Like our faculty are doing these incredible like publications and presentations at different conferences. Like, okay, these are really cool topics. Like we're writing a story on homelessness in the area for college students, and like that's huge. That's trending. Like, let's respond. Let's share that so people know that it's happening and what our faculty are doing to like address policies in these areas and how you can, you know, involve yourself in these communities. So it's really cool. And especially because they're doing cool work. So why not share it, you know?
Yeah. It's cool. And it shows that I think that a lot of people are concerned about whether their institution actually cares about them, or they're just, you know, you're writing them a check and they care about your money. I think that's a big thing with universities, I think mostly, but I think that's kind of every kind of educational system that is higher education, because it is not the same as public school. But yeah, and I love that there's campaigns that you're working on that are focusing on showing that you know, it's an educational system that cares and not just you know, wanting to be a bit.
Yeah, I will say that because of who I am, like I always try to pick places that do care about you as a person to work for, because you put a lot of time there, right? So like you want to be able to like resonate with that organization's values. I truly do feel BC, and specifically the Lynch School, like they care about us as humans, like not just the students, right? Obviously they care about the students, but also us as employees. And the big thing that they foster is like holistic development for all. So like formative education is the word that we use here on campus, but it's really like how we address, I say students, but I'm going to also say employees, because they do it for us, staff and faculty as well. And this approach that's more holistic, right? So you're looking at people's spiritual, emotional, intellectual, ethical well-being, and they're really factoring it all in to make sure that like we're developing alongside our work, alongside the students. And it's not like they're just saying it, like they do really care about us. So it's fun for me to feel like I'm being cared about. So now I can care about the students too and like put out this great work. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's really great to hear. No, I definitely think that that's a wonderful thing to know, just because I think that I also, additionally to what I kind of mentioned earlier, is that like I think when you feel cared about, you're more likely to showcase your work in a way in which like you care about that. Because again, you can be really good at something, but if you don't, you know, feel cared about or feel valued in where you work, I think that comes out in your work, even if you can be amazing at something. But I think that is just something that naturally happens. And I love to hear when that dynamic is different, because I do talk to a lot of agencies, and I can't get a feel for if they're doing bad business practices when I speak to them. Okay, it's good thing.
It's not my job to report on that.
But I do know that it's definitely a common thing, or at least earlier on when they were becoming a bigger what's the word I'm looking for? Like trend. I guess agencies were not always as large as they are now. I think that in the beginning there was a lot of muddling themselves off corporate structures and not trying to do things differently and not showcasing all of their different strengths and all their employees are caring about them properly. And I think that I'm seeing an upward trend of that, which makes me very happy. But it's nice to hear from you as well, because I think that educational institutions work in a similar fashion of that. I don't know if everyone feels cared about when they're in their roles. So to know that you do is really nice. Very uplifting.
Yeah.
So moving, I guess, more towards the effect of marketing campaigns, I guess, is how are you able to kind of measure the success of a campaign? Is it based off of like enrollments or engagement? Like how do you kind of navigate that and tell what is going on?
Absolutely. So our office is responsible for a lot of different parts of marketing, right? So I'd say in the graduate admission space, for sure, it's enrollment and enrollment, absolutely. But, the admissions team plays a role there as well. It's definitely more, why am I blanking on the word right now? Engagement. Sorry. Engagement with our ads. So, we have reporting, like we use Slate, which is like a CRM for higher ed. Like people have never heard of it. It's essentially like a Salesforce, but for a higher ed institution. And we're able to track how our ads perform, and same thing in Slate, email engagement. Are people opening it? So those are like small ways to track how our grad enrollment marketing efforts are doing out in the world. For an event, it's attendance, right? So we do all Lynch School event marketing as well. So whether it's, an email campaign, social media campaign, flyers in the halls, things like that, right? We also have a whole mini campaign for each of these events. So getting that event to be successful and have however many people they expect or want at that event, that obviously is rewarding for us to see and hear. I think those are our two biggest ways that we measure our success. I think the other thing is anecdotally is when we have focus groups with students and we hear how did you hear about us? That's for me the most rewarding way of how our marketing efforts are doing. Like I mentioned earlier, I just did 2 one-on-one interviews with students this week, and one of the students said, "Oh, I heard from word of mouth," which is great because we obviously want to foster an alumni community. So that's cool to hear word of mouth. "Oh, I did a program there. This new person's going to start and enroll with us." That's always awesome. But the other person was like, "Oh, I saw a digital ad." And I literally in the interview went, "Whoa, that's not how do that work." So it's always rewarding to hear that too. So, there's different ways through Slate with all our tracking measurements, obviously UTM code, that whole data collection. I think events is making sure the events are successful. We get enough attendance there, and then in person and hearing about it as well. And obviously, social media analytics. I know I didn't say that. That's everyone's talking about that.
Yeah, I know we know. We know about that. The typical marketing measurements.
Yeah.
So how do you navigate or balance all of these different campaigns that you do? Because I didn't even know that you also did events. And
Great question. I don't know, Shannon. I'm just kidding. I did mention my great team. I will continue to say that. They help me keep my head on straight. But we have a project management system that we it's called Asana. So yes, we do a lot here for a small school, and I put that in air quotes because we're one of the biggest graduate schools here on campus. The marketing team is always busy. I feel like every marketing team is always busy, no matter what industry you're in. You can be in an agency role, which I feel like is just so much quicker because I have friends who've worked in those agency organizations, or you can be working for an actual, you're working in the marketing department at an actual institution or corporation, whatever it is. I think the only difference, sometimes higher ed's a little slower, but I wouldn't say it is. The marketing team's always busy. There's always so much that we have to do. I'm very organized, so I have a ton of sticky notes. I have checklists. We use our project management system. I also every year, once a year, we do a strategic plan. And it's really sitting down and identifying what are the goals that our dean wants us to make sure that we're accomplishing for the year. 1, always being graduate enrollment. 2, fostering community, right? So that would be all the events, whether it's student-based, faculty-based, etc. And the list goes on, but that's kind of how we set our priorities. And obviously there's things that come up. There's new innovation projects, whether it's a new, master's program or a new initiative that's launching. It's a whole research effort and we need to do a little mini campaign for their launch. Things will come up, so they won't be really on the strategic goals because it's new. But I try to stay really organized and leave room for we don't know if it's actually coming. And I involve myself in a lot of the conversations that are happening. Our leadership does a really good job with it to make sure that marketing has a seat at the table, right? Because if we don't know what's happening, we can't plan accordingly and we can't stay on top of everything that we're doing. So they're involving me and my team in those conversations. We meet with the faculty, the different departments once a month. We host student focus groups every semester. So we're there and we're hearing from everyone to make sure that we're able to do all the work that we need to do for our office.
No, it's really good to hear that there's this fostering communication between different departments, because I think that that's the biggest downfall of any kind of anything, company, business, agency, whatever. I think that and is also common for something that is very negative. I think is the idea that everyone's in their own little world and they have their own job to do and that's it. But I think that fostering communication between everyone is the best outcome, because you're not in the dark about something going on here, because marketing is showcasing strengths of your business. And if you don't know what's going on completely, how are you able to showcase those things?
I agree. Yeah, for sure.
Well, I think that is a really good note to end on, because you're a little bit over time. But I had such a wonderful time with you today. I really appreciate you coming on with me today. It was really nice to get the perspective of an educational institution, which I don't get a lot for marketing.
Thank you so much, Shannon. I'm happy to share my insights. I'm so glad that we were able to connect and do this today. So, let me know if you need anything else from me. I'm excited and can't wait to hear this on the other side.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And thank you everyone for joining us as well. Don't forget to watch other episodes as well to get education like I get to out of every podcast.
Subscribe, all the things.
And big education podcast or
free
education, everyone.
Free education podcast.
So thank you again so much. And everyone who is watching or listening, have a great day. And thank you. We wouldn't be here without you. So. Okay. Yeah.
You've been listening to Fully Managed, brought to you by Penji. Check out the show notes to learn more about today's guest. And to learn more about Penji, the human-first creative subscription service, head over to penji.co. And by the way, if you're still listening, it would mean the absolute world to us if you were to share this podcast with a friend and, of course, subscribe.